without a spouse, without offspring, devoid of existence. At the festive season, my kin proclaimed, seizing my hard-earned savings, mere trifles they seemed, and all did acquiesce in silent agreement. I did smile and take my leave. 3 days hence, my voicemail overflowed with their urgent entreaties. Never did I imagine I would find myself sharing my thoughts in this manner, yet after the events that transpired at our familial Christmas gathering, I feel compelled to unburden my heart. Pray, take heed, for this discourse may stretch long, yet I find myself still in the throes of contemplation. Text, thou art aware of that instant when thou dost enter a chamber and all within fall silent, as if struck by an unseen force. Thus commenced the morn of my Christmas day. Upon my arrival at my mother's abode, precisely at the hour she had summoned me, I was met with the sight of all others having gathered long before my entrance. The tree stood amidst a bounty of unwrapped gifts, while the remnants of our morning feast were being tidied away, and my brother Andrew's son Christian was already engrossed in the delights of his new-found games. The initial portent of trouble should have been their haste, for mother had expressly instructed me to await the hour of 10 in the morn. This marked our inaugural Christmas devoid of our father, who departed in the month of October, and all seemed askew. My mother embraced me with fervor, yet a certain tension lingered within the curve of her smile. Mine sister-in-law Gabriella scarcely raised her gaze from her device, merely uttering, "Oh, thou hast arrived," as though I were but a remote stranger who had intruded upon their cherished assembly. I placed my offerings beside the verdant boughs, striving to cast aside the discomfort that lingered in the air. Christian, dear soul, appeared truly delighted at my arrival, leaping forth to unveil his splendid new gaming contrivance. That youth hath ever been a beacon of light in our familial assemblies. Yet lo! Andrew did interject, "Prithee, do not trouble Uncle Dominic, for he likely comprehends not these matters in any wise. Overwhelmed with his pursuits, whatever they may be." The excavation bore no hint of delicacy. Lo, I have prospered in mine endeavors, toiling from afar for a company of technology whilst journeying at my leisure. My father, steadfast in his support, embraced my choices, even when they strayed from the well-trodden path that Andrew chose. Yet, since the departure of my father, the remarks regarding my way of life have grown ever more frequent and sharp. Verily, the course of events did take a most unfortunate turn during the midday repast. Mother prepared the customary feast of Yule, a first since the departure of father, and a solemn hush enveloped the gathering until fair Gabriella, with a spirit unyielding, chose to shatter the stillness. Pray tell, dear Dominic, dost thou have a cherished companion in thy life as of yet? Verily, at thy tender age, thou oughtest to ponder upon the notion of establishing a more permanent abode in matters of the heart. Christian doth require kin of his own age. Before I could respond, Andrew interjected, "Ah, he is far too engrossed in the life of a solitary man. Without a spouse, without offspring, devoid of a true existence, is it not so?" He did chuckle, yet a sharpness lingered within the sound. The manner in which all present at the table either inclined their heads or averted their gazes revealed to me that this was not the inaugural occasion upon which they had deliberated my life's decisions. I maintained my composure, fixated upon my repast. My existence is indeed quite abundant, I must say. With a heart full of contentment, I find joy in the paths I have chosen. Brimming with what, pray tell? Gabriella did press her point, laying aside her fork, for to toil all day behind a screen, to wander to desolate chambers of lodgings, such is not the essence of life, nay, it is but a mere existence. Thou art squandering thine own promise. Your sire would have wished. Do not. My tone emerged more piercing than I had meant. Pray, do not speak of what my father might have desired. The atmosphere at the table was thick with unspoken words, a palpable strain that could slice through the air like a sharpened blade. Mother sought to divert the discourse, inquiring about the festivities of the new year, yet Andrew remained resolute, unwilling to yield. Pray, let us engage in discourse upon this matter. The reading of the Last Testament approaches in but a week's time, and we must needs embrace a measure of realism in our discourse. He did lean in, his voice softening as though imparting a weighty truth unto the ears of the attentive. Thou hast amassed a fortune, free from burdens, whilst we strive to bestow upon Christian a life most splendid. It is but a travesty of justice. In that moment, I beheld the countenance of my mother, marked by a shadow of remorse. She averted her gaze from mine. What dost thou imply, that we must needs embrace the truth of our circumstances? I inquired, albeit I was beginning to assemble the fragments of understanding. Gabriella didst leap forth, her voice a syrupy melody. We have encountered certain expenditures in the realm of Christians' esteemed institution, the abode's transformations, which father vowed to assist with ere his untimely departure. Alas, we found ourselves compelled to secure a loan against the inheritance we anticipated from the testament. Mine belly did plummet. Pray, dost thou seek to borrow? Whence dost thou hail? The hush that ensued was most profound. At last, the matron did raise her voice, though it emerged as naught but a faint murmur. Your share, my dear. They, didst require it. Thou hast amassed a great fortune already, and they possess a kin to consider. It was as though a cruel blow had struck me deep within, leaving naught but a hollow ache in my core. Thou hast taken coin from my rightful legacy, without so much as a word to me, obtained through another's grace. Andrew didst correct, as though such a deed might render it more palatable? Pray tell, what purpose didst thou intend to serve with it, I wonder? Thou art but a shadow in this household, a mere spectre of worth. Without true bonds, naught but a solitary existence, adrift in the currents of life whilst others bear the weight of genuine duties. All did acquiesce with a solemn nod. Even mother, albeit with a visage of distress whilst undertaking the task. The sole figure who appeared ill at ease was Christian, who had ceased his consumption and was gazing intently at his dish. With a measured rise, I did ascend, the chair beneath me groaning as it met the floor's embrace. Silence fell upon the chamber once more, as all present braced themselves for a tempest to unfold. Instead, I did smile. I express my gratitude for the repast, dear mother, yet I must take my leave. Pray, do not indulge in such theatrics. As Gabriella began to speak, I found myself already departing. In the distance, I discerned Andrew's voice, lamenting my propensity to flee from the fray of discord. With a mind clouded and thoughts adrift, I journeyed homeward in a stupor. Upon my arrival at mine abode, mine device did illuminate with a flurry of missives, predominantly from my mother, imploring that we convene to deliberate upon matters as a family. A missive from Andrew urging me to gather my courage and confront the truths of existence. Mine replies have yet to grace their inquiries. Instead, I did summon the counsel of my father and did leave a missive for him. On the morrow's light, I shall uncover the truth of what they have wrought with mine inheritance and the meaning behind their borrowing. The most lamentable aspect. My mind doth wander to the final discourse shared with my father, mere days before he took his leave from this mortal coil. He did entreat me to safeguard the kin, yet also to hold steadfast in my resolve. In that moment, I believed him to be merely prattling on, a consequence of the potion he had consumed. Now I ponder whether he possessed foresight of such an occurrence. Though uncertainty clouds my path, I am resolute in my conviction that I shall not allow this to persist. Not solely for the coin, but for all that it doth signify. They wish to discourse upon the matters of existence and duties, so be it. Pray, let us engage in discourse. Mine device doth continue to vibrate with fervor. Verily, I shall permit it to toll for a spell longer. Firstly, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to each of you for the kind and encouraging words bestowed upon my previous missive. Never did I foresee such a tempest of replies. In the span of but 2 days, a multitude of events hath transpired, and verily, I find myself still endeavoring to comprehend the weight of it all. What I unearthed delves far deeper than I first perceived. On the morn of yestereve, I did convene with my father's counsel, Master Wilson. He appeared unperturbed by my presence, which served as my initial indication that all was not as it should be. I have awaited thy summons, quoth he, as he drew forth a substantial tome. Your sire hath bequeathed precise counsel regarding this matter. It appears, dear father was aware. He possessed knowledge of all things. The gathering commenced with Mr. Wilson presenting unto me a collection of loan parchments, each inscribed with mine own name. Mine own signature hath been most foully forged upon no less than 6 distinct documents throughout the span of this past year. Each hath taken from my share of the inheritance, which father had seemingly bequeathed to a trust. What is the sum total? merely a sum exceeding $285,000. Mine eyes were beset with a foulness upon gazing at those inscriptions. Alas, they were but poor imitations, lacking in merit. Yet, behold, this is where the tale doth take a curious turn. Good sir, Mr. Wilson did draw forth yet another parchment. The true testament of my father, written a fortnight prior to his departure from this mortal coil. Your sire did rectify this matter following a grave discourse with thy sibling, he did expound. Then he did present unto me the records of the bank's dealings. Andrew and Gabriella find themselves in dire straits, their coffers empty and fortunes waning. Not merely grappling, but sinking beneath the weight of financial burdens. The esteemed institution of learning they boast of? For many moons, the dues of learning remain unpaid. What of their abode's transformations? Primarily supported by the plastic tokens of commerce. Forsooth, they have dwelt in excess beyond their means for many a year, employing the waning health of their father as a means to procure loans. Whilst Mr. Wilson did expound upon this matter, mine device did incessantly vibrate. At long last, I took a moment to peruse it amidst a brief respite. Alas, a multitude of 27 calls hath gone unanswered. 15 messages left upon the ether's breath. A multitude of writings. Some select passages. Andrew, thou art acting with great selfishness. The fate of Christian hangs in the balance, a matter of great import indeed. Gabriella, thy sire would surely be filled with dismay at thy conduct. Dearest mother, I beseech thee, let us engage in discourse upon this matter. They erred, yet their kin remained steadfast. The most astonishing missive came from Christian. Dear Uncle Dom, I beseech thee to forgive me for the misfortunes of yonder Christmas. Father and mother erred in their utterances. That struck with great force. The youth, though but a mere 12 summers old, doth possess a wisdom that oft surpasses that of his progenitors. Then did Mr. Wilson unveil the grand stratagem of my father. The Revised Testament doth bear particular stipulations. All moneys acquired through loans not sanctioned must be returned ere any may lay claim to their complete inheritance. And lo, the twist of fate, my father hath entrusted me with the stewardship of the repayment scheme. Your sire did express himself with utmost clarity regarding this matter. Good sir, Mr. Wilson did present unto me the letter penned by my father in his own hand. He hath penned, Dominic doth comprehend the worth of coin and the weight of duty more profoundly than most bestow upon him due recognition. He shall choose wisely. As we neared the conclusion of our discourse, Mr. Wilson didst unveil yet another startling revelation. There exists another matter of import that thou shouldst be apprised of. He proclaimed, drawing forth one last parchment. Thy brother did seek me out in the past month, endeavoring to have thee deemed financially imprudent. He sought dominion o'er thine entire share of the bequest. Thus did it elucidate the recent utterances concerning my manner of living and my journeys afar. They were not merely casting aspersions, but rather constructing a formidable case against my character. As I departed from the chamber of toil, yet another missive of sound did arrive. This moment found Gabriella, her voice trembling with emotion. We must engage in discourse. There exist matters beyond thy comprehension. The institution doth threaten to expel Christian should we fail to render payment by the coming week. Pray, let us find a way to come to an accord. In my chariot, I lingered for an extended spell, perusing once more the missive penned by my father. In the twilight of his craft, he penned, My dear child, they shall endeavor to wield the weapon of remorse against thee. Thou shalt be deemed self-serving. Recall, true accountability doth not lie in yielding to the clamor of others, but rather in the art of making difficult decisions for noble causes. The subsequent passage took me by surprise. Pray, inspect the carriage-house at yonder ancient abode. In the lowermost tier, concealed behind the vessels of hue, I have placed an item of necessity for thee. I did make my way to my father's abode, though now it is my mother's dwelling. In the absence of company, a sense of solace enveloped the space. The garage remained as father had departed, his instruments still ordered with a soldier's meticulous care. Amidst the array of paint cans, there lay a modest safe, impervious to flames. The union was the day of my birth. Within lay another missive, a collection of USB drives, and a meticulous account of every loan that Andrew had procured through the years, not solely from my inheritance, but from father as well. The sums were most astonishing. The missive commenced thus: "Should you find yourself perusing these words, know that they have at last overstepped their bounds. Herein lies all that you require to safeguard thyself and aid them in their enlightenment." Once more, my device did emit a gentle vibration. A missive from mother. "They shall arrive upon the morrow's morn. I beseech thee to join us. We must address this matter as a united kin." I gazed upon the contents of the safe, laid bare upon my desk, and then turned my eyes to the letter penned by my father. The concluding verse proclaimed, at times, affection demands resolute steadfastness. "Thou art mightier than they perceive thee to be." Upon the morrow, the gathering shall surely prove to be most intriguing. All documents have been duly replicated and dispatched to Mr. Wilson for secure preservation. I have resolved to no longer be the one who bends to the will of others, yet I seek not to unleash vengeance upon them. My father hath placed his trust in me to manage this matter with due diligence, and verily, that is the course I shall pursue. The latest missive hails from Christian. "Pray, dost thou intend to grace us with thy presence on the morrow? I trust thou dost. One must needs convey unto them the verity. Of all the missives that have crossed my path, it is this one upon which I shall bestow my attention. Verily, I shall provide an update following the morrow's gathering. There is a whisper in the air, a portent of change that shall touch the lives of all who partake in this unfolding tale. Behold, an update the second hath arrived. Alas, I ought to have perceived the signs amiss when I arrived at my mother's abode this morn and beheld 3 additional carriages gracing the driveway. Andrew had not merely brought Gabriella. He hath summoned 4th additional forces. In the chamber of our abode, there gathered our dear Aunt Linda, Uncle Pete, and a family confidant skilled in the art of finance, all assembled as though for a council of intervention. The initial utterance from Andrew's lips established the atmosphere. "Splendid, thou art present. Pray, let us now deliberate upon the means to mend the turmoil thou art creating within this household." Verily, I found myself on the brink of mirth, indeed. This was their performance upon the stage. Mother stood in the threshold of the kitchen, her demeanor fraught with anxiety, a tissue grasped tightly in her hand. Gabriella reclined with an air of grace upon the couch, her visage adorned as though she were bound for a conference of commerce rather than a familial clash. Christian was absent from the scene, perchance dispatched to a companion's abode to evade the tumult. I did seize upon my father's aged armchair, the very one that rests beside the window's light. In that cherished seat, I found a wellspring of fortitude. I uttered not a word, but bided my time in silence. Andrew hath ever loathed the stillness, for it doth render him uneasy. Verily, he commenced to occupy the emptiness. We have engaged in discourse. He didst gesture towards the chamber. Verily, we perceive that thou art not beholding the grander design in this matter. Father's testament, it doth bring forth undue burden. We dost present a proposal. Their companion, skilled in matters of coin, unfurled a collection of documents. In that moment, mine eyes were drawn to the emblem. From yonder establishment, which doth oversee the loan upon my mother's dwelling, it did come. Fascinating indeed. The offer was precisely as one might anticipate. They sought to rearrange the bequest of their lineage. In essence, they would gain prompt access to their entire allotment, alongside a provisional stewardship of my portion to facilitate the more judicious management of familial resources. In recompense, they would establish a scheme for the restitution of the loans, commencing in 5 years hence. I permitted them to complete their discourse. Then I didst draw forth my father's ledger. "Pray, before we proceed any further, I beseech thee, let us discourse upon the property of Mountain View." Silence enveloped the chamber, as if the very air held its breath. Aunt Linda, in a moment most curious, discovered her coffee to be of great intrigue. For those inquiring in the comments, the abode in Mountain View was the rental estate of my father. 3 dwellings, wholly settled, yielding a constant flow of riches. He bequeathed it to his mother in the testament. At the very least, such was the belief held by all. "The estate upon the mountain's view bears no weight in this discourse," quoth Andrew with haste. In haste, perchance. I did unseal the tome to a page thus designated. Verily. Forsooth, as per this, thou didst secure a second mortgage upon it but 8 moons past. Exercised the authority bestowed upon me by my mother whilst my father lay in the care of the hospital. Didst thou convey that tidings unto her, Andrew? The delicate tissue, once held in maternal hands, fluttered down to the ground with a gentle grace. What discourse doth he engage in? It was but a fleeting moment. Gabriella did leap forth. We sought funds for a venture most promising. All matters are well within our grasp. In rightful governance. I sought counsel from their trusted adviser in matters of coin and wealth. Is that the reason the estate finds itself in a state of pre-foreclosure? In that moment, tears began to flow from my mother's eyes. Not gentle weeping, but rather fierce guttural cries that caused all to recoil. Mine own divisions. When Brooks and I first entered the sacred bond of matrimony, we did procure those items. Our scheme for the twilight of our days. Andrew cast upon me a gaze steeped in unadulterated loathing. Thou hadst no claim to pry into the intimate affairs of our kin. Is it a matter of secrecy? As if crafting my mark upon the bonds of debt? Or perchance akin to the trio of credit cards you did procure under your mother's name? Hark, let there be a deeper hush. The financial adviser commenced the assembly of his documents. Verily, that is most distinct. Andrew's voice bore the sharpness of a soul in torment. We did strive to safeguard the welfare of our kin. Thou hast yet to grasp the essence of that which is spoken. Thou dost wander freely, unburdened by duty, whilst we have suffered a grievous loss of 500,000 in the realm of online trading. I did interject. Pledged all that one could muster, drawing upon every treasure within reach. Depleted the coffers of Christian's scholarly pursuits. Gabriella did rise with great suddenness. Thou art a most self-righteous wretch. Dost thou truly believe thyself to be without flaw? At the very least, we endeavor to construct something of worth. What dost thou possess? Vacant abodes in distant towns, images of locales that stir not a soul. Mine accounts are clear of obligation. I spake in hushed tones. And I possess my father's faith. Lo, a faint whisper did arise from yonder stairs. Is it verily true concerning mine college fund? All eyes did shift. Christian perched upon the central step, grasping his device with fervent anticipation. Verily, he must have been attuned to every word spoken throughout the discourse. My dear, retreat to thy chamber, Gabriella began, yet Christian interjected forthwith. I did capture all that transpired, he declared, his voice trembling with emotion. From the very beginning. Did Uncle Dom speak true of their thievery, perchance? The ensuing moments were a tempest of disorder. Fair Gabriella weeps, while Andrew doth raise his voice in tempestuous fervor, and mother remains in sorrowful lamentation over Mountain View. Amidst the tumult, Aunt Linda and Uncle Pete did quietly depart, unseen by the throng. The financial adviser did present his card ere he took his leave, revealing that he had been endeavoring to caution the family regarding Andrew's machinations for many a month. In the midst of the gathering, Christian approached and settled beside me, gently claiming the armrest of my father's chair with a serene demeanor. Though it was but a trifling act, its weight bore heavily upon the heart. At last, when all had raised their voices to the point of exhaustion, I unveiled the final parchment, my father's revised testament accompanied by the terms of repayment. Thus shall unfold the events, I proclaimed. Mountain View doth enter into swift trust management to avert the impending foreclosure. All credit cards and the name of my dear mother are rendered void. The funds set aside for Christian's scholarly pursuits lie in a newly established account, accessible solely by him upon reaching the age of 18. And thou as well. I cast mine eyes upon Andrew and Gabriella. Commence the requisite financial counsel in the week to come. Or what dost thou propose? Andrew did unleash a disdainful expulsion of saliva. Or I shall present this collection of counterfeit papers to the constabulary. Let there be a deeper hush. At last, mother did raise her voice, though it bore the weight of sorrow, roughened by tears shed. Can the units be preserved? Verily. I did assure her, with utmost certainty. Father hath bequeathed sufficient in the estate to settle the matter, yet it is imperative that Andrew and Gabriella consent to the terms, every one of them. I distributed the scrolls detailing the terms of repayment. Whilst they perused, my device did emit a gentle vibration. A missive from Master Wilson. Text thy sire would surely swell with pride. Gather we shall on the morrow to bring all matters to their rightful conclusion. Before any soul could voice dissent, Christian did raise his voice once more. Father, I beseech thee, grant thy signature with haste. Verily, I wish not to unveil before mine peers the truth of thy actions. Andrew's visage turned ashen. The auditory capture. His very flesh and blood. First to inscribe her name was Gabriella. Andrew did pursue, his hand trembling with a tumult of either ire or mortification, perchance a blend of both. As I journeyed homeward, a torrent of missives began to pour forth. Menaces from Andrew. Heartfelt lamentations from mother. A lengthy missive from Christian beseeching whether he might take refuge with me for a brief spell until the tempest subsides. On the morrow, we shall convene with Mr. Wilson to render all matters most official. Yet a whisper in my soul doth suggest that this tale hath not reached its conclusion. Andrew doth possess a pride most lofty, whilst Gabriella's heart is steeped in a yearning most profound, and lo, 2 decades of familial entanglements await to be unravelled. At last, the verity is laid bare for all to behold. Though they may have wished to turn a deaf ear. Last tidings. 2 weeks have passed since my last missive, and I have bided my time, longing to share this tidings until all was set in stone. What transpired was not merely a conclusion. It was a thorough unravelling of my brother's artfully crafted guise. Some may refer to it as the wheel of fate. I deem it but fair recompense. Upon the dawn that followed our familial gathering, Andrew committed his irrevocable error. He sought to deplete his mother's coffers. Each and every one of them. Unbeknownst to him, I had taken the liberty to freeze all that was needed on the eve prior. His ill-fated endeavour to pilfer hath summoned forth precisely that which I did desire. A swift alert of deceit and an urgent inquiry forthwith. Herein lies the brilliance of my father's prescience. Lo, the USB drives he didst leave within the confines of the garage's secure abode. They held within their pages the chronicles of many a discourse through the years. Father hath been chronicling all matters. Each plea for coin, each falsehood spun, each cunning stratagem devised. In his final hours, the frail figure lay upon the bed of healing, as Andrew, with fervent urgency, implored him to bestow the power of attorney, all the while ensnared in the haze of potent elixirs. Master Wilson did assist me in the flawless execution of our design. To commence, we did present all proof of the counterfeit signatures to the appropriate powers that be. Thus did we unveil the treachery of credit card deceit. The visage of Andrew, when the inquisitors did arrive at his chamber, was, it seems, of inestimable worth. A missive from one of his esteemed colleagues hath reached me, bearing the security footage. Gabriella, in her fervent endeavour to mend the rift, summoned forth all within their social sphere, weaving narratives that painted me as the architect of familial ruin. Pray, dost thou recall the financial adviser from our previous gathering? It hath come to light that he had been maintaining his own chronicles of their plots. When he unveiled proof of their clandestine dealings, a small investment ruse among their companions, those once loyal turned upon them with the swiftness of ravenous beasts sensing their prey. The circumstances of the academy unfolded in a manner most paradoxical and rich with irony. My valiant nephew, Christian, hath sent forth all his recordings to the council of the school. They not only bestowed upon him urgent financial assistance, but also commenced an inquiry into the contributions that Andrew and Gabriella had asserted upon their fiscal declarations. Hark! A revelation most dire, for those offerings were but a phantom, never to be found in truth. At long last, the maternal figure beheld the genuine hues of her progeny, as Andrew, in a fit of despair, sought to cast the weight of blame upon her shoulders. He did assert that she had granted her consent for all the loans and credit cards. In that moment, I revealed my masterstroke. In the last recorded words of my father, captured merely a week ere his departure from this mortal coil, he laid bare the treachery of Andrew, who had cunningly wrought deceit and pilfered from our progenitors for countless years. What of the estate upon the heights of Mountain View? Rescued and reorganized. Mother's departure from her labors? Insured. What of the fund for young Christians' scholarly pursuits? Not merely restored but multiplied thrice, owing to the clandestine investment account of the father, of which Andrew remained blissfully unaware. What dost thou consider the finest aspect? From the very moment of his arrival into this world, it had been destined solely for Christian. Yet, true contentment arose from an unforeseen wellspring. Recall, if thou wilt, Aunt Linda, who did sit in silence during our gathering of kin. At last, she unveiled the truth behind her steadfast defense of Andrew throughout the ages. He had been extorting her with forged proofs of fiscal misdeeds. Upon the unmasking of that falsehood, she laid forth a trove of correspondence spanning years, revealing how Andrew had artfully ensnared and taken advantage of each kin in turn. The dominoes did tumble with grace and elegance. Andrew's establishment hath suspended him whilst an inquiry doth unfold, and their membership to the country club hath been rescinded. It seems they had been levying exorbitant sums upon the accounts of their fellow members. Their abode of aspirations now faces the spectre of foreclosure. They find themselves cast out from the fellowship of their peers. 3 of their companions have brought forth legal actions concerning the deceitful scheme of investment. Gabriella's last endeavor for atonement met with a most disastrous fate. She did endeavor to summon a gathering of the press, indeed, to cast herself in the light of a hapless victim of fate's cruel hand. In that moment, my astute nephew unveiled the scrolls of our digital discourse, revealing her schemes to ensnare yet more kinfolk in her web of manipulation. Next week, they shall depart from their abode, seeking a more modest dwelling in a quaint apartment across the way. Christian hath chosen to remain with me for a time, fortified by the full legal support bestowed upon us through the esteemed connections of Mr. Wilson. The court did take a keen interest in the recording wherein Andrew did threaten to exact payment for the revelation of their clandestine machinations. Mother's condition hath improved greatly now. On the morrow past, she did assist me in sifting through the remnants of my father's ancient study, whereupon we unearthed a missive he had penned to me in days of yore. At times, the most benevolent course of action one may take for another is to allow them to confront the repercussions of their deeds. Alas, it is a sorrowful plight. From the depths of despair, a sturdy base may rise, paving the path for brighter tomorrows. The bonds of kinship have irrevocably transformed. Many kin have severed their bonds with Andrew and Gabriella. Those who have not partaken do maintain a prudent distance. Mother doth now preside over the Sunday repasts. More modest and serene gatherings, free from the shadow of deceit that looms above. What dost thou deem the true triumph? The metamorphosis of Christian. Unshackled from the bonds of parental sway, he flourishes with vigor. His marks have risen, he hath forged true friendships, and on the morrow he did declare his desire to pursue the study of finance. To aid the souls of men, not to bring them woe, as he so eloquently expressed. What of my own self? From my dear mother, I have procured the estate of Mountain View, at the full measure of its worth, all matters above board and duly recorded. I am transforming it into dwellings of modest means, with an unwavering decree that neither Andrew nor Gabriella shall ever take residence therein. Trivial, perchance. Is it truly gratifying? Verily, indeed. My father's last words echo ceaselessly within the chambers of my thoughts. My dear child, there are moments when affection demands that we bear witness to another's downfall, that they may unearth a truth upon which to construct a genuine foundation. Andrew and Gabriella find themselves ensnared in a web of inquiries, beset by civil suits, and cast into the depths of utter social solitude. Their edifice of folly did not merely collapse, it was consumed by flames. And I took great care to chronicle each fleeting instant of its downfall. The kin doth believe my tale hath reached its final act. They are in error. I have established a fund of trust for Christian, one that shall remain untouched by Andrew and Gabriella, even upon the dawn of his 18th year. Each farthing they pilfered shall be restored in full measure, with keen attention, through the seizing of wages if required. Their standing in this fair town hath been laid to waste, not by whispers or falsehoods, but by the mere revelation of their own deeds. At times, the most exquisite retribution lies not merely in witnessing another's descent, but in ensuring they are forever unable to restore their guise anew. Christian shall abide with me throughout the academic year. Last eve, he inquired whether we might adorn his new chamber with the framing of father's final missive. To remind me, he did declare that to act with virtue holds greater weight than mere appearances. It appears that the legacy of my father shall endure, indeed, merely not by the offspring he was anticipated to select.